very good morning to you, dear Secretary General, Mr. Aditya, dear delegates from different countries. At the outset, I wish all the best to each and every one of you for having delegated or representing or choosing one country or the other to be represented. My heartfelt thanks to all the council members who have organized this model United Nations. And I am so happy because you have envisaged this. You know very well, the basic things for a human to survive is roti, kapda or makan. In Hindi it is said like that. What we need is food, clothing and shelter. And apart from that, health also I want to include. So likewise, for a human to survive, again they need to have the 5 elements. What are those 5 elements? The Agni, the Akasha, that means the cosmos, the air and land, the other one is the water. So these are the things, that basic things that can sustain a human person to grow well, and which we need to be aware of it. And this sort of conferences mainly help the students to become leaders locally, then at the same time transform themselves to nationally, and at the same time to globally. And an opportunity is given to each and every one of you. My inspiration, my wish is that you need to become global leaders. Because this is a platform where you express your knowledge. You represent, you take one country or the other, you represent that country, and you represent the problems of that country, and at the same time the growth of the country. Because without the growth, there cannot be any kind of progress in any country. Without the economic growth and without humanitarian aids, without human dignity, without green climates, and without having proper amenities for the welfare of the whole humanity. And here we talk about the humanity. It's not only humanity, the life that dwells on the earth is the responsibility of each and every one of us to take care of. We are here to take care of the life. Of course, giving priority to human beings. So in this scenario, you are the leaders who are trying to learn through your experience. This is an experiential learning. With all your abilities, you are trying to learn something. And when you express something, I am also convinced that you go through a lot of literature. And this is a forum which helps you to research and to rejuvenate. And at the same time to put across your things in clarity. So that the clarity is being given to the Secretary General. And the Secretary General is the one who organizes, maintains, runs, establishes and focuses with a kind of optimal knowledge to solve the problems. So this is what we are into, and my best wishes to each and every one of you, and particularly who have envisaged the staff fraternity, the student community, and at the same time the volunteers who are into this. I am so happy that you have taken up this task. And we need to congratulate our India for taking up G20 this year. We need to pat our shoulders, and at the same time we need to congratulate our President, and at the same time Prime Minister, and at the same time all those ministers who were involved in actualizing this G20 summit in our country. It's not an easy task for anybody, because once when global leaders attend such conferences, they learn a lot about the country. They learn particularly the economic growth and the democracy that is being in place. Ours is one of the largest democratic countries, as you are aware of it, and we are, we are placed in a proper cradle where we don't have much and many problems. We do have problems, but not like other countries where there are a few countries where they are at war, in the present day. And given when we compare to that, we are really peace-loving people. Our nation, is a peace-loving nation, and we have so many religions in this country, and we coexist together. Harmoniously, we coexist together. And there are so many languages. We understand one another not by merely concentrating on the languages, but by merely concentrating on our affinity with a warm smile and gestures, what I mean. So these are some of the things where we interact one another, and where we communicate to one another, and where we understand one another. And my suggestion, since you are from different countries as of now, selected from different countries, participating in this Model United Nations, my wish is feel as if you are the real delegate of that country, and feel as if you have to do something for that country. When you get into the shoes of that country, then only you can really bring out the worth of it. And that is my wish. And 15 of you, or how many Secretary General? 20 of you are given chance at this juncture to participate in this unique Model United Nations. So make use of the chance. And Loyola is your alma mater. And your alma mater in the sense your mother, second mother. And we really need to acknowledge our mother. Acknowledging our mother in the sense our campus, beautiful campus. And you can also suggest, because the delegates are here, what are the things that you need for the campus to be improved. And the mother in the sense campus, the management, the principal, administration, and the staff fraternity and the supporting staff. So these are all your supporters. And we have so many stakeholders too. So, respecting all these things, take up this cause and be a prominent member in this Model United Nations. And I wish all success to each and every one of you who are participating in this. My best wishes to each and every one of you. And God bless you. Thank you for calling me for this Model United Nations. Thank you, the Secretary General, for giving this opportunity. God bless you.
Thank you, sir.
So is there anything that...
Good morning, esteemed panel. It is an honor to conduct the happenings of the Council today, which is gathered here to discuss certain geopolitical imbalances that primarily constitute countries like the Frederick Russia, Ukraine, the Yemen crisis, and the Syrian crisis, and the recent development of the Israel-Palestine conflict. So, it is really important for us to focus on this pertinent issue and make a telling promise to the entire world that we are watching and pursuing a solution-based approach, that which shall grant the world consolation. The ongoing Russia and Ukraine war has been one of the most monumental events in the recent past, which has drastically affected trade, economics, politics. It has resulted in a significant loss of human capital, infrastructure, and agriculture. So therefore, it falls upon us to provide indispensable solutions and terms of conciliation to zero in on a tenable way forward. So I hope we cross this Rubicon together and zero in on a plausible solution. Should there be no objection, I would like to start the discussion with the delegation of India.
Namaste, ladies and gentlemen. We, the Indian delegation, stand before you with a sense of responsibility, commitment to the principles of peace, justice, and international cooperation. The ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine is certainly a matter of grave concern for the international community. It can affect not just regional, but also international stability. India has always upheld the principles of sovereignty, territorial integrity, and non-interference in the matters of sovereign nations. And our approach to these principles guides our views on conflicts happening around the world, including the current situation in Ukraine. In the same purview, the Republic of India abstains from siding with either parties involved in the conflict, as we believe taking sides at this time would not be fruitful. We are deeply saddened at the abandonment of a diplomatic path and urge the Russian Federation and Ukraine to return to diplomacy, as we firmly believe that dialogue is the only answer to settling differences and disputes at the moment, no matter how daunting it may seem. We also call for the immediate cessation of violence and hostilities from either sides. We call upon all parties involved to exercise restraint, prioritize peaceful negotiations, and engage in sincere dialogue to find a lasting and just resolution to the crisis. It is essential for the international community to work collaboratively to de-escalate tensions and to pave way for sustainable and inclusive peace process. As we deliberate further on this matter, let us remember the larger goals of peace, security, and cooperation. India remains committed to contributing constructively to international efforts aimed at promoting peace, harmony, and understanding. India believes in the power of dialogue, diplomacy, and collective action to build a world where all the nations coexist collectively and thrive together peacefully. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate of India. We would now like the Delegate of Canada to put forth their views.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed representatives, I, the representative of Canada, would like to address a matter of grave concern, one that requires our collective attention, condemnation, and action. The events unfolding in Ukraine demand a united front as we confront a blatant violation of international law and the very principles that underpin the rules-based international order. In the year that followed the invasion, we have sadly witnessed atrocities committed against the Ukrainian people, with civilian targets bearing the brunt of aggression, contradicting any semblance of a commitment to the principles of the UN Charter. Russia's actions not only jeopardized the lives of countless innocent civilians, but also challenged the very values and that bind us together in the international community. Canada stands resolute in its commitment to Ukraine's sovereignty, territorial integrity, and independence. We join hands with our international partners and allies in unequivocally condemning Russia's illegal and appalling actions. It is imperative that we collectively denounce this unprovoked and unjustifiable aggression, not only for the sake of Ukraine, but for the broader principles that govern our shared world. Russia's actions are not only an affront to the people of Ukraine, but a threat to the entire international order. We must respond with clarity and unity, upholding the values of sovereignty and self-determination that form the cornerstone of the rules-based global system. As we deliberate on the next steps, let us remember that our response must be measured, resolute, and collaborative. The eyes of the world are upon us, expecting nothing less than a firm commitment to justice, peace, and the preservation of the principles that bind us all. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate of Canada. We would now like the Delegate of the United States of America to address the gathering.
A very good morning to all the respected delegates present here. We all are gathered here to address on a matter of utmost importance, the Russia and Ukraine conflict. The ongoing crisis has caused far-reaching consequences that demand our immediate attention, cooperation, and commitment in order to achieve global peace and security. The conflict between Russia and Ukraine has caused millions to flee their homes. It has caused humanitarian crisis and displacing innocent civilians. The United States of America completely supports Ukraine. In this war, the truth is very simple. There is an aggressor and a victim. One side is constantly attacking the core principles of the UN Charter, and the other fights to defend them. The fear of not being able to see tomorrow is exactly what many families in Ukraine are going through. And this is what it will endure today, tomorrow, and the day after, as long as Russia wages its vicious war. A war the President Putin openly declared, with its aim at erasing Ukraine from the map as a sovereign country and gaining Russia's lost empire. The United Nations stands firm with the international order, where it believes that the right of people is not only to survive, but to thrive, to write their own future. Our people, Ukraine's people, and the people of all nations get to write their own future. We cannot, we will not let one man write that for us. In conclusion, the United States of America acknowledges the gravity of the situation and stands firm in its commitment for a peaceful resolution that respects the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine and urges all the parties involved to engage in a meaningful dialogue for the same. A stable and secure Ukraine is not only in the best interest of the region, but also very crucial for fostering global peace. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Delegate Yusef. Now we would like the delegate of the United Kingdom to address the gathering.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished leaders of the G20 nations, thank you for gathering here today as we collectively address one of the most pressing challenges our world faces, the unprovoked and premeditated war waged by the Russian government against Ukraine. The United Kingdom, alongside our allies, stands united in condemning this aggression and is unwavering in our commitment to a swift and just resolution. Over the past 2 years, the UK, in collaboration with international partners, has implemented severe sanctions against Russia, aiming to impose a lasting cost on Russia's war capabilities. Our actions include sanctions on major banks, restricting their access to finance, banning certain entities from the SWIFT international payment system. Amidst these challenges, the UK remains committed to providing humanitarian aid to Ukraine and addressing the refugee crisis. Turning to the broader geopolitical consequences of the Russia-Ukraine war, the UK views it as a significant threat to the European security, reshaping global alliances and eroding international norms. The blatant violation of the international law sets a dangerous precedent. In terms of energy and food security, the war has disrupted global supply chains, causing price hikes and shortages. The UK recognizes the need for collaborative efforts to diversify energy sources, boost food production, and mitigate global supply chain disruptions. As we consider plausible solutions, the UK emphasizes continued strong support for Ukraine, maintaining pressure on Russia for stringent actions and strengthening the NATO and this European security. While the UK's position is not monolithic, public opinion fluctuates, we believe in the importance of a united response from the G20 nations to the ongoing challenges posed by the war's uncertain trajectory and global impact. In conclusion, the United Kingdom stands alongside our allies in condemning Russia's aggression and working towards a just and a peaceful resolution for the people of Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Delegate of UK. We would now kindly request the delegate of Australia to address.
Australia often stands by the saying, peace is not the absence of conflict, it is merely the ability to abstain from conflict by peaceful means. A pleasant morning to all the delegates and esteemed guests. It brings me great pleasure to represent a stable, democratic and culturally diverse nation united in cognitive strength and standing economic representation of international peace and global economic stability. Australia. As we gather here this morning to address the pressing matters that affect world stability, most of us have been clear that this conflict of separatism between Russia and Ukraine is not in anybody's interest, including Australia. Australia, right from the former times, maintained peaceful treaties with Russia. However, such bothersome causes threaten the prevailing political peace. Russia must have no illusion as Australia continues to stand for the civilians being suppressed from the repercussions of the war. Australia stood in light of decisive multilateralism among the countries, donating men and finance to Ukraine, devastated by the impacts of war on its innocent civilians who have been targeted by Russia's actions, including the rather extraordinary missile strikes. These commitments bring Australia's total contribution in support of Ukraine to $790 million, including $610 million in military assistance. Russia's actions have placed direct pressure on the other countries, no matter how far they were from the direct conflict. including Europe and Spain, who share diplomatic relations with Australia as a source of renewable energy, indicating significant impacts on the coal production, energy level prices, domestic market, export market, and Australian families. We have, because of the embargo, blockade of Ukraine wheat exports, causing shortage of food in Australia and other parts of the world. There is no alternative but to stand up against Russian aggression. And if we fail to do so, the dire consequences on the international order stand troublesome. Australia strongly resolves under these issues and continues to stand for Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Delegate of Australia. We would now kindly request the delegation of the Republic of Turkey to address the Cabinet.
Marhaba, greetings of the Republic of Turkey to all the delegates present today at the G20 summit. Değerli Kadın Limziler, ladies and gentlemen, as a representative of Turkey, our country advocates for a peaceful resolution through diplomatic efforts to facilitate dialogue between conflicting parties, both Russia and Ukraine. We firmly believe that international law and respect for sovereignty of nations must guide our actions by utilizing international organizations such as United Nations as a mediator and a neutral spokesperson. His Excellency, our President, Mr. Recep Tayyip Erdogan, rightly stated, Turkey has a different position and the impact of war has affected us all. Russia is our closest neighbor, and as we share a common history, for which our country has acted as a mediator in the war between both Russia and Ukraine, we are making all the efforts to stop the bloodshed, tears, and destruction in Ukraine as soon as possible. We argue that problems should be resolved through diplomacy, as Turkey hosted several talks between the parties, which yield to the most significant progress. According to the Minister of our Foreign Affairs, Mr. Hakan Fidan, Turkey is guided by its national interests and international commitments in its relations with Russia and Ukraine. He said, in this context, we have reached progress in economic cooperation with two countries. Mr. Fidan recalled that around 33 million tons of agriculture projects had reached global markets under the Black Sea Grain Initiative taken by our country, Turkey, on humanitarian grounds. Turkey encourages a multilateral approach involving the United Nations and other stakeholders to safeguard regional stability and foster peace. With this, I bring to you all and say, Teshkaluvar. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you so much. The delegation of Italy.
Una terra, una famiglia, un futuro. One north, one family, and one future. Good morning, delegates. I love them with all my heart. My children are the most important for me. I love them, my wife, with all my heart. Says Zelensky, President of Ukraine. Questa guerra ha fatto pezzi tutti nel nostro paese. The conflict between Russia and Ukraine, while geographically distant from our shores, had notable repercussions that have reached Italy's border and beyond. Our economy faced security concerns, diplomatic engagement, and energy security. This conflict in Ukraine has disrupted regional stability, loss of life, and displacement of innocent civilians. Italy stands firm in its commitment to upholding the principles of international law and territorial integrity, advocating for a peaceful resolution to the crisis through dialogue and diplomacy. Firstly, it creates a lot of suffering for innocent people. Many families have to leave their homes, seeking safety from the fighting. This makes a tough situation for neighboring countries and for the whole world too. Furthermore, the conflict has strained international relations, highlighting the critical need for strengthened diplomacy and multilateral cooperation. It re-emphasizes the importance of dialogue and peaceful negotiations, urging all parties involved to prioritize diplomatic solutions and to engage in constructive dialogue to achieve a sustainable peace and agreement. We have always been there and we will always be there. Grazie mille. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Delegate of Italy. We would now kindly request the Delegate of Germany to put forth their views.
Requested chairs, esteemed representatives, Guten Morgen. As we gather here discussing the impact of Russian-Ukraine war, we have made significant strides in addressing the threats to our own security and understanding our responsibility as a leader in today's world. Our country reduced its energy consumption from Russian fossil fuels to zero and is now one of the leading arms suppliers for Ukraine's self-defense. This change in perception of threats has led to a fourth phase of foreign policy, where Germany seeks to assume responsibilities in new phase of this foreign policy, both in Europe and beyond. We have learned that hoping for the best is not enough when dealing with an increasingly autocratic leader. We have also learned that the economic and political interaction with Russia did not sway the Russian regime towards democracy. Germany will continue to support its allies and the eastern neighbors, as the security of Eastern Europe is Germany's security. In our first ever national security strategy, we have outlined how to aim to assume our responsibility through an integrated security policy. This includes stepping up our commitment to the Euro-Atlantic family, strengthening the NATO as a guarantor of collective security, increasing military capacity, and building a geopolitical European Union that is opening its doors to the new members such as Ukraine, Moldova, and the Western Balkan countries, and Georgia. We have painfully learned that security means not only protection from war and crisis, but also from its economic vulnerabilities. We are preparing not to repeat the past mistakes and focusing on the divestment and investment in security. We are strengthening strategic global partnerships and providing their work by advancing solutions that serve our partners' needs, such as security, trade, and fight against the climate crisis. Russia's war of aggression has ruptured in our world, and for Germany, it has opened a new chapter in promoting peace, freedom, and sustainability in the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The Delegate of Brazil is requested to speak.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished delegates, I extend a cordial welcome to all present. I stand before you today as a representative of Brazil, a nation committed to the principles of diplomacy, peace, and international cooperation. In the recent times, our world has witnessed challenges that demand our collective attention and concentrated efforts. In addressing the ongoing crisis, Brazil condemns the invasion of Russia and supports the Ukrainian territorial integrity. Our recent vote in the UN resolution, which called for the immediate withdrawal of the Russian troops, is a testament to our unwavering decision to uphold international law and the sovereignty of the nations. Ukraine appreciates the efforts of the Brazilian president to find a solution to stop Russian aggression, declared Ukrainian Foreign Ministry spokesman. According to a poll, 62% of Brazilians support Ukraine and 6% support Russia. We align ourselves to the principles that form the bedrock of a peace and justful world. Brazil stands ready not only to endorse but actively contribute to diplomatic initiatives aimed at de-escalating the situation. The key to ensuring stability lies in earnest and inclusive decisions where concerns and aspirations of all parties are considered. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The Delegate of Indonesia, could you please address the gathering?
Good morning to all esteemed representatives. As Indonesia, a nation committed to peace and diplomacy, we stand here at the G20 summit to address the profound impact of Russia and Ukraine war. Though geographically distinct, the repercussions of this conflict resonate across the globe, affecting trade, politics, and economics, including our own. Indonesia, with its thriving economy and vibrant diplomatic traditions, recognizes the urgent need of collective response to this crisis. The loss of human capital and infrastructure, coupled with disruption to global markets, pose a threat to the stability we all cherish today. From Indonesia's perspective, we emphasize on the importance of dialogue, diplomacy, and finding tenable solutions. Our president was the first Asian leader to visit Russia and Ukraine since the conflict has begun. As a peace broker between the two nations involved. Indonesia maintains a neutral stance in the Russia-Ukraine conflict, prioritizing the economic partnerships with both the nations and recognizing the significance of Indonesia's economic growth. We advocate for a peaceful resolution that respects the sovereignty of the nations involved. Let us unite and mitigate the effect of Russia-Ukraine conflict, working towards a world where cooperation triumphs over discord. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Delegate of Indonesia. We would now like the delegation of Japan to put forth their views.
Honorable Chair, esteemed delegates, I am honored to be present before you as a delegate of Japan in this G20 summit. As a country firmly dedicated to fostering global collaboration and diplomatic engagements, Japan approaches today's discussion with a sense of purpose and responsibility. As a nation, Japan denounces warfare or any action that violates international law and human rights. Japan has consistently championed the cause of global peace. Japan's stance on peace building can be summarized through the following key points. 1. Proactive contribution to peace. Japan has adopted a proactive contribution to peace based on the principle of international cooperation as outlined in the legislation of peace and security that took effect in March 2016. Second, peace building in practice. Japan has been involved in various peace building initiatives such as the Mindanao peace process in the Philippines, where it has played an intermediary role in providing peace negotiations and providing assistance to displaced communities. Third, adaptive peace building. And fourth, international cooperation. Japan's peace building efforts are centered around the international cooperation, as it seeks closely to work with other countries and organizations such as the United Nations. Russia's aggression against Ukraine is beyond endurance. Great violation of international law, including killing of innocent civilians repeatedly, has taken place. This is not a dispute or a conflict, this is a genocide. Japan has strongly condemned Russia's invasion of Ukraine and has implemented sanctions against Russia alongside G7 and other countries. Japan has supplied Kiev with military equipments including surplus drones and sanctioned hundreds of Russian entities and individuals. Japan has taken in refugees from Ukraine and implemented bilateral and international organization assistance along with financial sanctions, trade sanctions, as well as visa missiles. The Prime Minister of Japan has visited Ukraine in March 2023 to demonstrate Japan's ongoing support to Ukraine. And Japan has renewed its determination to exercise leadership to fully defend the international order. We actively support the people of Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Delegate of Japan. We would now like the Delegate of Argentina to please address the gathering.
Honorable Chair, esteemed delegates, I'm honored to be present here representing Argentina at this crucial G20 summit. Argentina stands before you not just as a nation, but as a beacon of hope amidst the storm raging in Ukraine. This conflict has disrupted global trade, destabilized economies, and caused immeasurable human suffering. The war constitutes a flagrant violation of the principles of the United Nations Charter and international law. Argentina condemns the use of force against the territorial integrity and political independence of Ukraine. Over 10,000 Argentines reside in Ukraine, facing the daily threats of the conflict. Over 8 million Ukrainians have fled their homes, internally displaced or seeking refuge as refugees. The World Food Programme estimates 23 million people in Ukraine face the threat of food insecurity. These statistics are not mere figures. They represent shattered life, broken families, and a future stolen from innocent children. As Argentina, we refuse to be bystanders to such suffering. Our stance is centered on three key pillars. Firstly, Argentina underscores the importance of collectively responsibility. Secondly, we prioritize humanitarian aid and reconstruction efforts. Thirdly, Argentina emphasizes the significance of international law and the respect of sovereignty. Ultimately, the only acceptable path forward is a ceasefire that prioritizes the protection of innocent lives. We propose a multilateral approach, ensuring the inclusivity of all concerned parties to reach a sustainable and just resolution, thereby preserving human dignity and international stability. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have the delegation of Mexico.
Hola and greetings to everybody present here. This is the delegate of Mexico going to present the stance of Mexico on the war that is happening in Ukraine. Now we all know that Russia is the perpetrator, but we as a country take a neutral stance. The president, AMLO, Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, has termed this war to be one that is of irrational nature, and we are always on the side of peace. In September 2022, a resolution was passed in the United Nations with Mexico and France in collaboration. 105 countries have accepted this. Now this primarily holds two aspects. The first being a call for a ceasefire, and the second, the protection for victims. Victims, irrespective of which end of the table they belong. Now the neutral stance of this country, of Mexico, holds firm. Economic sanctions on Russia have been cancelled. The provision of arms to Ukraine has been cancelled, and the latter is justified by the statement given by the president. We do not send our guns anywhere. We are a pacifist nation. Furthermore, the country of Mexico is willing to do anything for peace only if the concerned parties are willing to do the same. Now this is because only if both the parties are in similar interest can a fruitful fruit be yielded. Wall Street Journal in July 2023 has posted an article saying that in Jeddah of Saudi Arabia, peace talks were arranged with regards to this matter. And 30 countries were invited, excluding Russia, who is supposed to be a part of it. And that is the reason why Mexico has declined the invite. Again, showing firm in its beliefs. A clear stance on this subject is what Mexico is on. A strive for peace, and a strive for peace is what we achieve to go on. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We now have the delegation of the Republic of Korea. Honorable Chair, fellow delegates, we, the people of Korea, proud of a resplendent history and traditions dating from time immemorial. 1 year since Russia's full-scale invasion of the Ukraine, the war's economic impact still reverberates around the world. The war also greatly compounds a number of pre-existing adverse global economic trends, including rising inflation, extreme poverty, increasing food insecurity, deglobalization, and worsening environmental degradation. The Korean government strongly condemns Russia's armed invasion against Ukraine as a violation of the principles of the UN Charter, asserting that the use of force causing innocent casualties cannot be justified under any circumstances. The statement emphasizes the Ukraine's sovereignty, territorial integrity, and independence should be respected. As a responsible member of the international community, the Korean government will join the international community's efforts, including economic sanctions, to curb the armed invasion and resolve the situation peacefully. And we, as Korea, believe peace is the only battle worth waging. Thank you. Thank you so much. Now, the Council would like to pin all its ears to the delegation of Russia, the subject of our discussion.
Esteemed delegates, it is an honor to represent Russian Federation and address the pressing issue of the Russia-Ukraine war on the geopolitical landscapes and discuss possible solutions to curtail the effect of this conflict. It is imperative that we dwell into the underlying causes and intricate dynamics to identify effective measures for bringing stability back to the region. Russia emphasizes the crucial need to find viable solutions to mitigate the impact of this war. We strongly advocate for peace and negotiated resolution as the only feasible path ahead. In order to reduce the consequences of this rift, it is imperative that we prioritize humanitarian aid and reconstruction initiatives. Creating trust and confidence between nations is crucial. Russia strongly believes in using diplomacy and promoting dialogue to bridge gaps and find solutions. My esteemed delegates, here, many of you have mentioned that they are shocked by Russia's ongoing aggression in Ukraine. Indeed, military operations are always a tragedy for specific people, specific families, and the country as a whole. And we must certainly think how to stop this tragedy. Russia has never refused to negotiate peace with Ukraine. I repeat, Russia has never refused to negotiate peace with Ukraine. It is not Russia, but Ukraine that has publicly announced that it is withdrawing from the negotiation process. However, reciprocity to facilitate such actions, devoid of constant blaming, is also a necessary ingredient. The delegate of Russia understands that this war and the loss of life are shocking and could not be otherwise. But Russia also cannot become the subject of culpability and the punching back to the rest of the world. Let me be crystal clear, my esteemed delegates. Russia does not bear principal blame for initiating this war. In fact, our nations have constantly advocated for peace. The ongoing conflict with Ukraine is the byproduct of the long-standing Cold War between the other countries. It is Ukraine who has fomented aggression among its people, forcing the hands to deploy specialized military units. Nevertheless, let's hope to find elbow room for immediate peace. Thank you.
Thank you so much, the delegate of Russia, for that comprehensive insight. Now, we have the delegation of South Africa.
Good morning, everybody. As a representative of South Africa, I am here to discuss humanitarian issues and promote peace in the region. Regarding the Russia-Ukraine war, South Africa emphasizes the need for a peaceful resolution to the conflict, urging diplomatic dialogue and adherence to international law. We believe in fostering global stability and cooperation to address the humanitarian and economic consequences arising from this situation. The conflict has global implications, impacting not only immediate region but also international relations and trade. The war has led to humanitarian crisis with displaced populations and economic disruptions. It is crucial for the G20 to promote dialogue, respect for sovereignty and adherence to international law to address the multifaceted challenges arising from this conflict. The war has led to increased geopolitical tensions impacting global energy markets due to Russia's significant role as an energy exporter. South Africa, being part of global economy, faces challenges related to energy prices and supply disruptions. Additionally, the conflict has highlighted the importance of international diplomacy and cooperation to address such crises. The conflict has raised concerns about security globally, with Russia being major supplier of natural gas to Europe. South Africa, reliant on global energy markets, faces potential impacts on prices and availability. Moreover, the war underscores the importance of upholding international law and respecting sovereign borders, principles that South Africa firmly supports. It emphasizes the need for diplomatic solutions to prevent further escalation and promote regional stability. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We now would like to request the delegation of France to put forth their views.
A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As we gather amidst the present global challenges, the delegate of France reaffirms its unwavering commitment to peace building and conflict resolution. As we convene, the Ukraine conflict remains a poignant reminder of the challenges to global peace. France stands firm in its commitment to a peaceful resolution and its territorial integrity of Ukraine. France has consistently supported Ukraine's sovereignty, demonstrated by an active role in Normandy format negotiations. Our joint efforts alongside Germany in Ukraine aim to find a diplomatic solution respecting international law and Minsk agreements. Within the G20 framework, France calls upon all nations to reaffirm the inviolability of borders, engage in constructive dialogue, support economic and humanitarian aid. Looking ahead, France proposes increased OSCE monitoring by strengthening the role of organizations for security and cooperation in Europe to monitor ceasefires and facilitate dialogue. Energy security to work collectively to reduce Europe's dependency on single energy resources, ensuring Ukraine's economical stability and reducing leverage in geopolitical disputes. Cultural and education exchanges to foster understanding between nations, mitigating misconceptions and building bridges of cooperation. In conclusion, the Ukraine conflict underscores the need for unity, dialogue, and unwavering commitment to international law. France remains steadfast in its support for Ukraine and calls upon the G20 nations to join hands in this endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We now request the delegation of China to please address the gathering.
Respected delegates, in addressing the Russia-Ukraine conflict, China recognizes the intricate web of challenges it has woven across the global landscape. The disruptions in trade, politics, and economics underscore the urgency for a collective response. As a nation deeply committed to peace and stability, China advocates for a comprehensive global consensus on conflict prevention and peace building. Nonetheless, we glean that the deficiency of such a framework may lead to such global conflicts which need our immediate attention. We firmly believe in diplomatic solutions and constructive dialogue as the pathways to resolution. It is imperative for the G20 to prioritize collaboration in formulating strategies that not only mitigate the current crisis but also contribute to a lasting framework for international cooperation, ushering in an era where the specter of war becomes a relic of the past. China acknowledges the humanitarian toll exacted by the conflict with substantial losses in human lives and infrastructure. Such a multifaceted crisis requires nuanced and inclusive approaches. As we engage in these discussions, let us also consider the socio-economic implications and explore avenues for coordinated efforts to rebuild affected regions. China stands ready to contribute to global initiatives that promote peace, recognizing the interconnectedness of nations and the shared responsibility to cultivate a harmonious and secure world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Delegate of China. We now would have our last delegate of the day, the Delegate of Saudi Arabia.
Honorable chairs and esteemed delegates, as the delegate representing the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, I stand before you to address the pressing issue of the Ukraine-Russia war and its profound impact on the geopolitical landscape. The conflict has sent shockwaves across the international community, and it is imperative that we, as responsible nations, come together to find plausible resolutions to curtail the effects of this devastating war. Saudi Arabia, with a commitment to peace and stability, acknowledges the urgency of addressing the crisis and its implications. Our approach towards the Russia-Ukraine war is characterized by a commitment to neutrality, mediation efforts, and providing humanitarian assistance to the Ukrainian refugees. Saudi Arabia hosted a meeting with the national security advisors of over 40 countries, along with the representatives of the Arab leaders. So sorry. Yes. Saudi Arabia hosted a meeting of the national security advisors of over 40 countries, along with the representatives of the United Nations, the European Commission, and the European Council. The meeting held in Jeddah agreed to continue consultations and exchange opinions to find a way to restore peace between Russia and Ukraine. Despite the deepening
engagements with Russia, we have voted in favor of the UN resolutions calling for the cessation of conflicts and the withdrawal of Russian forces. The humanitarian toll of this vote cannot be underestimated. As Saudi Arabia, we believe in the principles of humanitarian assistance and will continue to provide humanitarian assistance for the Ukrainian refugees. Saudi Arabia supports initiatives that promotes the economic stability, trade, and reconstruction of the affected regions. In conclusion, Saudi Arabia emphasizes the importance of unity in addressing the Russia-Ukraine war. The international community must work collectively to bring an end to the hostilities, provide humanitarian aid, and establish a foundation for lasting peace. Let us stand together, united in our commitment to a world free from the ravages of war. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Delegate of Saudi Arabia. Now that we have concluded our discussion on the Russia-Ukraine conflict, the fruit of which we shall harvest at the end of our conclave, we shall now move on to the Middle East and Middle Eastern crisis. The Middle East has always been a controversial subject. Armed conflicts between the Houthi rebels and the Saudi coalition in Yemen, the Syrian insurgencies and invasions, and the age-old conflict between Israel and Palestine, which recently took the shape of a full-scale war, are all issues worthy to sit at the G20 table. The unprecedented infiltration of Hamas, the ignorance of which has been termed Israel's biggest intelligence failure, followed by the massacre of 1,500 people, and Israel's retaliation has resulted in abominably great prices for both the countries. Negotiations on such issues are incumbent and should be conducted with promptitude. The Delegate of India, please commence.
Ladies and gentlemen, Namaste. The Indian delegation addresses this esteemed assembly with a deep sense of responsibility, acknowledging the complexity and gravity of the Israel-Palestine conflict. India reiterates its support for the state of Israel and recognizes its right to exist within secure and internationally recognized borders. We also acknowledge the historical complexities and context surrounding this conflict, understanding the aspirations and security concerns of the Israeli people. At the same time, we condemn all acts of violence, regardless of their source. The hostilities have inflicted immense suffering on innocent civilians, with more than 20,000 civilian lives lost on both sides. It has led to escalating tensions and grim prospects of a peaceful resolution to the conflict. It is imperative that all parties take decisive measures to prevent and combat terrorism in all its forms. India firmly supports a just and lasting resolution to the Israel-Palestine conflict through a negotiated two-state solution. Being the first non-nation to recognize the Palestine Liberation Organization and one of the first nations to recognize Palestine's statehood, India believes that Israelis and Palestinians have the right to live in peace and security within recognized border, and the establishment of a viable, sovereign Palestinian state alongside Israel is crucial for achieving a sustainable and comprehensive resolution. It is India's sincere hope that both parties will engage in meaningful dialogue, exercise restraint, and work towards a negotiated settlement that addresses the legitimate concerns and aspirations of both Israelis and Palestinians. The international community, including the United Nations, should play a constructive role in facilitating and supporting these efforts. In conclusion, India reaffirms its commitment to a world where nations coexist peacefully, respecting each other's sovereignty and working collectively to address shared challenges. We remain dedicated to contributing positively to global peace and stability. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We now would like to request the delegation of Canada to please address the issue.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed representatives, I stand before you today to articulate Canada's unwavering commitment to promoting peace, security, and justice in the Middle East. Our approach is rooted in the belief that a comprehensive, just, and lasting peace is not only desirable but achievable through collective efforts, dialogue, and respect for the rights and aspirations of all parties involved. Canada maintains positive yet limited bilateral relations with Yemen. Canada recognizes the importance of regional stability and supports efforts to protect Yemen's recognized government, defend its territory, and improve stability in Yemen. Canada encourages all sides of the conflict to resume inclusive political dialogue and participate fully in the peace process. Canada continues to call on all parties to the conflict to abide by their obligations under international humanitarian law. Canada has been and continues to be a staunch supporter of Israel's right to live in peace with its neighbors within secure boundaries. At the same time, Canada is steadfast in recognizing Palestinian rights to self-determination. We support the creation of a sovereign, independent, viable, democratic, and territorially contingent Palestinian state as a part of a comprehensive, just, and lasting peace settlement. Canada is resolute in its commitment to the goal of comprehensive, just, and lasting peace in the Middle East with the vision of a Palestinian state living side by side in peace and security with Israel. The 1993 Israel-Palestine Liberation Organization Declaration of Principles provides the basis for a comprehensive agreement based on UN Security Council resolutions 242 and 338. In conclusion, Canada urges all parties to engage in meaningful dialogue, demonstrate goodwill, and work towards a future where lasting peace, security, and prosperity prevail for both Israelis and Palestinians. The path to peace is challenging, but our collective commitment to justice and diplomacy will undoubtedly pave the way for a better future in the Middle East. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The delegation of the United States of America.
Respected delegates, the Middle East has long been a region of historical significance and geopolitical importance. With the persistent conflicts in Israel-Palestine, Syria, and Yemen have consequences that affect us all globally. The United States of America has made it crystal clear regarding our support for Israel. We stand with Israel only because we condemn any source of terrorism or organization such as the Hamas. Through the anti-terrorism law, though the anti-terrorism law remains in effect, under Joe Biden's administration has resumed aid to the West Bank and Gaza, pleading to provide the Palestinians at least $500 million by 2024, pending congressional approval. Thus, it is essential that all parties involved commit to a negotiated two-state solution that ensures security and dignity of both the Israelites and the Palestinians. The United States is the largest single donor to the humanitarian response in Syria. We provide over $12.2 billion in humanitarian assistance for vulnerable individuals inside Syria and those displaced in the region since the start of the crisis. On February 4, 2021, our President Joe Biden gave his first foreign policy speech, where he announced 3 decisions with regard to his administration's policy toward the war in Yemen. The end of all support for offensive operations, including arms sales. 2, US supports the UN-led peace initiative. And 3, the appointment of a veteran diplomat, Tim Lenderking, as a special envoy to Yemen. These decisions just mean one thing: the United States has moved from the position of supporting one party in the conflict to assuming the role of a peace broker. Lastly, the United States aims at addressing the root causes of these conflicts to forge a path towards lasting peace, stability, and prosperity in the Middle East. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Delegate of USA. We would now like the delegation of Brazil to address the gathering.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished delegates, I am representing Brazil in this esteemed forum. Turning our attention to the complex dynamics troubling the Middle East, Brazil takes a balanced approach in engaging with both Israel and Palestine. Firmly standing alongside Israel in the fight against anti-Semitism, while also standing against the illegal blockade of the Gaza Strip, as we believe it suffocates the local economy and makes it difficult to provide humanitarian assistance. Saying that, we recognize a two-state solution where Israel and Palestinians can coexist in peace and security. Brazil also acknowledges both Jewish and Palestinian national movements. In regard to the conflict in Yemen, as the largest economy in Latin America, Brazil reaffirms its unwavering support for the legitimate government of Yemen led by President Abdel Rabo Mansour Hadi. This 8-year civil war in Yemen has been called one of the worst man-made humanitarian crises. Our government closely monitors the conflict and wishes for a swift return to peace and prosperity. Brazil calls on the G20 to recognize the significance of supporting Yemen's legitimate government for stability and prosperity. Let us collectively work toward a future where peace prevails. Acknowledging the human dimension of conflicts, Brazil stands ready to contribute to collaborative efforts for the restoration of peace in Yemen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Delegate of Brazil. We would now like the Delegate of Indonesia to address the gathering.
Indonesia, as a diverse and an inclusive nation, understands the gravity of conflict in Yemen, Syria, and the ongoing Israel-Palestine issue. While geographically distinct, these issues have implications that reach beyond their boundaries. Indonesia calls for equitable collaboration between the global north and the global south in the addressing these conflicts. Our nation has successfully navigated through diverse cultures, religious landscape, advocating for dialogue, for conquering of resolution. We cannot ignore the plight of those affected by the conflicts, be it in Yemen, Syria, or the tragic events in Israel and Palestine. The Houthis' attack on the shipping vessels passing through the Red Sea has negatively impacted our economies, as our economy deeply depends upon trade and export to the Western nations. The attack has temporarily paralyzed the trade corridors connecting the Indian Ocean with the Atlantic Ocean. As a part of the G20, Indonesia stresses on the importance of regulating the non-state characters through concrete efforts. We believe in the power of diplomacy to bring about lasting solutions. Let us engage in negotiations with promptitude, recognizing the urgency of mitigating the suffering in these regions and contributing to the world where peace prevails over discord. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We now request the Delegate of United Kingdom to address the gathering.
At this summit today, the United Kingdom reaffirms its commitment to fostering global stability and peace with a dedicated focus on humanitarian efforts and diplomatic solutions. Navigating the intricate landscape of the Middle Eastern conflicts, the UK perceives instability in the Middle East as a challenge, emphasizing the associated risks of conflict, weapon escalation, and mass migration. As a major aid donor, we passionately advocate for the protection of civilians in conflict zones, underscoring our commitment to contributing to regional stability and peaceful coexistence. In context of Israel-Palestine, we steadfastly support a two-state solution based on the 1967 borders. While evidently condemning violent actions, we acknowledge concerns regarding military engagement and occupation issues. In Syria, our active engagement against extremist groups aligns with our support for political solutions. We remain open to dialogue regarding our alliances, understanding the importance of the cooperative efforts. Regarding Yemen, our call for a ceasefire and enhanced humanitarian access is coupled with an acknowledgement of concerns about arms sales. Our aim is to contribute positively to conflict resolution and humanitarian relief in the region. As challenges persist, the UK strives to balance humanitarian efforts and security concerns along with diplomatic initiatives. We recognize the evolving global landscape and commit to contributing constructively to global peace, acknowledging the complexities of conflicts in the region. In conclusion, the United Kingdom urges collective efforts at this summit to find diplomatic solutions that uphold the principles of peace and stability. Let us collectively strive for a world where the echoes of conflict are replaced by the resonance of diplomatic resolution. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The delegation of Australia.
Fellow delegates and esteemed guests, Australia's relationship with the Palestinian Authority and engagement in the occupied Palestinian territories is in support of the United States in a negotiated two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The anger, the hurt, the sense of outrage that the Israeli people are feeling after the brutally inflicted devastation by Hamas is completely understandable. We also have to remember that the Hamas
does not represent the vast majority of the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip or anywhere else. Hamas is hiding behind the legal documents of Palestinian civilians, and it's despicable. This also puts an added burden on Israel while they go after Hamas, unintentionally causing damage to Palestine in entirety. But that does not lessen the need to operate in line with the laws of war and has to do everything in its power, as difficult as it is, to protect innocent civilians. Australia believes in freedom and democracy, a belief in opportunity, a determination to build a more prosperous and more peaceful world. Those values are timeless, and they have never mattered more than right now. Australia unequivocally condemns the actions of Hamas. We grieve for the loss of every innocent life, whether that be Israeli or Palestinian. In terms of crisis, respect for international humanitarian law is paramount. It is a recognition of our common humanity. Australia will be providing an additional $15 million in humanitarian assistance for civilians in Gaza, in addition to the $10 million Australia has already committed, delivering life-saving assistance such as emergency water and medical services. For Australia, our office is valuable interface with the Palestinian Authority. Our development, cooperation, and humanitarian assistance to the occupied Palestinian territories contributes to stability and is a practical demonstration to our long-standing support for a two-state solution. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Delegate of Australia. We now have the Delegate of the Republic of Turkey.
Marhaba, ladies and gentlemen. The Republic of Turkey on the matter of Middle Eastern conflicts, particularly the Israel-Palestine, Syria and Yemen crisis. Turkey emphasizes the need for comprehensive and just solutions. In case of Israel and Palestine, a two-state solution based on United Nations resolution is imperative for lasting peace, we agree. Our President, Mr. Recep Tayyip Erdogan, condemned Israel's response to Hamas' attack by bombing cities in Gaza, which has destroyed several infrastructures, cut off humanitarian supplies, and have killed millions of civilians. Our President stated that managing a conflict using every sort of embarrassing method is not a war, it's a massacre. Regarding Syria, Syria is almost a decade into civil war, but what's happening in the country is now perhaps the biggest ever humanitarian crisis. So Syria, our country, states that the political statement and reconstruction efforts are crucial. Coming to Yemen, Turkey calls for an immediate end to the conflict and increased humanitarian assistance by the United Nations. The conflict zone is causing immense suffering and disrupting the lives of countless individuals. We, Turkey, agree on the strong statement on the fight against violence and the importance of solidarity and effective collaboration to tackle the refugee crisis. Turkey supports the efforts of regional organizations and the United Nations to bring about stability, human rights, sustainability, development in all these regions as a balanced and inclusive approach to foster peace. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We now have the Delegate of Italy.
The Middle East, alright, a region of historical significance and cultural diversity, has unfortunately been a focal point of conflicts that extend well beyond its borders. Italy recognizes the weight of these conflicts and their implications for global stability, security, and prosperity. The ongoing turmoil in the Middle East has resulted in significant humanitarian crisis, displacing millions and straining neighboring nations. This displacement doesn't just affect the region. It has a ripple effect globally, creating challenges that demand a united international response rooted in compassion and solidarity. The Middle Eastern conflicts have ignited geopolitical rivalries and fueled extremism. The rapid increase in number of violence has not only cost countless lives, but also impeded progress towards sustainable development goals, seeking opportunities for growth and prosperity, not just for the region, but for the entire world. Italy calls upon the G20 community to unite in addressing the impact of Middle Eastern conflicts on the world. Let us renew our commitment to peaceful resolutions, dialogue, and cooperation, working together to build a more peaceful and prosperous world for all. Grazie mille. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The delegate of Germany.
The international community is being tested by the Israel-Palestine conflict, and everyone must seek to understand each other's pain. As a delegate of a country that bears historic responsibility for the worst imaginable crime, never again, to me as a German, means that we will not be resting knowing that the grandchildren of Holocaust survivors are now being held hostage by terrorists in Gaza. Israel's security is non-negotiable. Like any other state in the world, it has its right to defend itself against terrorism within the framework of the international law. All civilians matter just the same. Humanity is universal and should be our empathy. The fight is against Hamas and not the civilians. That is why it is crucial for us that this fight must be carried out in line with humanitarian law, with the greatest possible consideration for the civilians in Gaza. We will keep humanitarian windows so that those who are suffering in Gaza can get help. Peace will only work if it works for everyone. The need for a future where both Israelis and Palestinians live side by side in peace and security in two independent states is necessary. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can we now have the delegation of Japan?
Japan strongly urges Palestine to exert further effort to realize peace in the Middle East, while urging Israel to take a restrained stance against any unilateral actions without negotiations, such as endorsement of international organizations which will negatively impact resumption of direct negotiations. Japan supports a two-state solution, whereby Israel and a future independent Palestinian state live side by side in peace and security. Japan has increased provision of aid to the Middle East, such as development assistance for the region. Concern over its energy security arises. Japan has warned that the conflict in the Middle East could impact the economy through energy costs. Balanced diplomacy is another aspect of this. Japan has struggled to balance its diplomacy with the United States and Arab nations, particularly due to its oil dependence in the Middle East. Japan will continue to take all possible measures to ensure the safety of Japanese people in Israel and the Gaza Strip, while strengthening its efforts to reach out to both Israelis and Palestinians, and work towards calming down the situation as soon as possible in close coordination with the international community. Japan's policy towards the Middle East conflict includes energy security and its commitment to promoting peace and stability through international cooperation and aid provision. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can we now have the delegate of Argentina?
Building on the critical points already raised, Argentina wishes to add its voice to the urgent call for peace and stability in the Middle East. Argentina shares the concern voiced here about the ongoing conflicts in Israel, Palestine, Syria, and Yemen. These conflicts affect not just the region, but all of us. They threaten peace and security worldwide. On the Israel-Palestine conflict, Argentina reaffirms its full and unwavering support for a two-state solution, based on the 1967 borders, with East Jerusalem as the capital of Palestine and West Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. This approach ensures a fair and lasting peace, guaranteeing the right of self-determination for both parties. The statistics underscore the urgency of our call for action. In the conflict between Israel and Gaza in previous years, over 2,250 Palestinians lost their lives, with more than 1,400 being civilians. Tragically, among these casualties, a third were innocent children, bearing the heavy toll of conflict and violence. Argentina urges both sides to prioritize good faith negotiations through established channels, guided by internationally recognized parameters and a shared commitment to a two-state solution. Similarly, the Syrian conflict, now entering its 12th year, has caused immense human suffering and regional instability. More than 6.7 million individuals are internally displaced, while approximately 5.7 million Syrians are registered refugees, seeking refuge and facing immense challenges in hosting countries. Argentina reaffirms its support for the United Nations-led processes, particularly the Geneva peace talks, as pivotal platform for diplomatic efforts aimed at resolving the Syrian crisis and restoring stability to the region. The distressing situation in Yemen, marked by prolonged conflict and a critical humanitarian crisis, demands immediate attention. Argentina highlights the necessity of a thorough ceasefire and unrestricted access to humanitarian aid for the million facing famine and illness. In conclusion, Argentina believes that the ongoing conflicts in the Middle East require not only our immediate attention, but also a sustained commitment to building a just and peaceful future for the region and beyond. We implore all parties to prioritize dialogue, embrace diplomacy, and uphold international law. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have the delegate of Mexico.
Coming to the Middle East, Mexico would like to state that it has always had a firm and long-standing history with this place. Saudi Arabia is the biggest trading partner of Mexico, and the Lebanese, which constitute 50% of its current population, growing only from just 5% when they have immigrated during the crisis in the war with Israel in 1948. Moving forth to Syria, $3 million was sent in support for all of the vulnerables, children and refugees and everybody else, out of which $1 million was sent to the United Nations Children's Fund and the remaining $2 million to the World Food Programme. In a total, 1.9 million refugees were assisted, out of which 30% were children and 3 million were received food in all of the neighboring countries. Support for refugees is what Mexico stands for. It is said by our president that right to work and access to any sort of formal employment is a right that everybody deserves, irrespective of which state they are in at the moment. Moving forth to Yemen, we have a bilateral tie with this place, which was always firm, and the government here boosts the cooperation in this aspect. Mexico now is a member of the United Nations Human Rights Council in Geneva and strives to do more and more for the betterment of this place. Now coming to the most pressing issue in today's world, the Israel and Palestine conflict. As stated previously, this country would choose to remain very, very neutral, only in the pursuit of peace. A two-state solution is what we want, is what most people want. Now we have seen that there was an attack which is unprovoked, is against all of humanitarian beliefs. On October 8th, 2023, we have issued a statement saying that any terrorist activity is not right and is a threat to peace, and something that has to be punished. Now Mexico is a place that follows its tradition very diligently. Traditions of interpretation, self-determination, peaceful resolution of conflicts. Its foreign policy is also very principled and based. Developed in the 1960s of non-intervention, self-determination, legal equality of all the countries, national sovereignty, peaceful resolution of disputes. Now keeping all of these in mind, we have dealt even with the 9/11 situation under President Vincent Fox. Dealing with peace and caution, moving objectively, is what Mexico stands for. Mexico has always urged to use the corridors, Gaza and Egypt, West Bank and Jerusalem. Now in conclusion to this, I would like to state the statement given by the Foreign Secretary of Mexico. Mexico recognizes the rights of the people of Israel but not at the expense of the Palestinians. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We would now request the delegation of the Republic of Korea to address us.
As the Republic of Korea, we believe deciding what not to do is as important as deciding what to do. Since the beginning of the latest conflict in the Middle East, Brent prices have been volatile amid potential geopolitical impact and on supply and concerns of slowing global growth. Global oil consumption in 2023 is estimated to reach an all-time high. According to the World Bank, the number of people living in extreme poverty rose by roughly 100 million to over 700 million. A significant share live in these conflict regions. The Middle East peace process offers an opportunity for South Korea to upgrade its political and diplomatic role in the region. By increasing its political role, Middle East peace processes, Korea can establish its middle power status not just in Asia but in the Middle East as well, making Korean companies a part of the peace process, and through soft power, which will allow Korea to develop its new regional status with new regional diplomacy and policy. As the only G20 country that has successfully transitioned from poor to rich since the World War II, Korea offers a unique perspective on international development, cooperation, and partnerships. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The delegation of Russia.
Esteemed delegates, the conflict in the Middle East holds great implications for not just the region but the entire world, extending beyond mere geographical boundaries to impact global politics, security, and stability. The ongoing Israel-Palestine conflict, for instance, has led to the humanitarian crisis, strained international relations, and fueled tensions among nations. It is imperative that we address the root cause of these conflicts and seek possible solutions for lasting peace. Unlike the West's reluctant diplomatic approach, Russia would like to emphasize our approach to the situation in the Middle East. Russia has never had any wish to gain anything from that. Russia has always stipulated our opposition, declared our opposition, and it has not changed across the years. We stand for the establishment of full-fledged Palestinian state. Thousands of civilians on both sides have been killed and wounded in the Israel-Palestine conflict. The large-scale tragedy that Israel and Palestine are now experiencing was the direct result of the failure of the US policy in the Middle East. The Americans, with the support of the European satellite, tried to mold the settlement in the Middle East, but did not concern themselves in finding a compromise acceptable to both the sides. The Palestinian interest does not seem to get any traction in the West, and they certainly never took into account the fundamental interest of the Palestinian people. The one side of the Americans for many years led the situation further into a dead end. The Middle East quarter of international mediators was not used. Under far-fetched protection, the US basically blocked this format, which was unique and, by the way, had a mandate protected by the relevant UN resolutions. An attempt was made through economic incentive measures to solve a deep-seated political problem, namely the Palestinian state. I would like to emphasize that Russia is ready to coordinate anyone to ensure peace. We proceeded from the belief that there is no alternative to resolving the Israel-Palestine conflict through negotiations. The goal should be the implementation of the UN two-state formula, which is the creation of an independent Palestinian state, with its capital in East Jerusalem, coexisting in peace and security with Israel, which is, of course, we all see. This was subjected to an attack unprecedented in its cruelty, and of course has the right to defend itself to ensure its peaceful existence. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Delegate of Russia. We now have the delegation of South Africa.
In addressing Middle Eastern conflicts, South Africa acknowledges the interconnectedness of global security. We advocate for inclusive dialogue and diplomatic solutions to mitigate the impact on the world economy and ensure stability in the region, emphasizing the importance of respecting the sovereignty of nations. The Middle East remains a focal point for global stability, and South Africa recognizes the profound impact of conflicts in the region. Instability affects energy markets, trade routes, and regional stability, influencing the global economy. South Africa advocates for a holistic approach, combining diplomatic solutions, conflict resolution, and development initiatives. Middle Eastern conflicts have widespread consequences, including economic, political, and humanitarian challenges. Furthermore, the refugee crisis stemming from these conflicts emphasizes the importance of international collaboration to address humanitarian issues and promote peace in the region. South Africa recognizes the importance of multilateral approaches to address the root causes of conflicts, fostering regional stability. Additionally, the country advocates for humanitarian aid to the affected populations and supports diplomatic initiatives to find lasting solutions. Stability in the Middle East is crucial for the global economic balance and security. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Delegate of France, please put forth your views.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Middle East remains a crucible of conflict, with the crisis in Palestine and Yemen standing as the statements to our collective failure and the urgent need for action. France remains deeply committed to seeking just, lasting solutions to these conflicts. France staunchly upholds a two-state solution as a path to peace between Israel and Palestine. The continued expansion of settlements and unilateral actions undermine this vision. We call upon both parties to re-engage in meaningful dialogue with international support to achieve a negotiated settlement based on pre-1967 borders, with Jerusalem as the shared capital. The humanitarian situation in Yemen is dire. With millions on the brink of famine, France has been at the forefront of diplomatic efforts pushing out an immediate ceasefire and inclusive political dialogue. We commend the recent peace talks which stress the need for sustained international engagement to ensure a lasting resolution and reconstruction efforts. Within the G20 framework, France urges all nations to provide humanitarian aid by mobilizing resources to alleviate the suffering in Yemen and support Palestinian refugees, ensuring access to essential services. To promote diplomatic engagement by utilizing multilateral platforms to foster dialogue, promote confidence-building measures and address the root causes of these conflicts. To remain regional stability by addressing the broader region's dynamics, including arms proliferation and proxy intervention, which exacerbates tensions and hinder peace efforts. Moving forward, France proposes enhanced mediation via collaboration with regional and international partners to facilitate direct talks between conflicting parties, emphasizing mutual recognition and respect. Reconstruction initiatives by launching comprehensive reconstruction and development programs for Yemen, prioritizing infrastructure, healthcare, and education. Cultural and youth exchanges to foster people-to-people connections, promoting understanding and reconciliation among communities. In conclusion, the conflicts in Palestine and Yemen demand our immediate attention, unwavering commitment, and collective action. France stands ready to work with all G20 nations to forge a path towards peace, stability, and prosperity in the Middle East. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can we now have the delegate of China?
Honored delegates, China views the Middle Eastern conflicts with the lens of global interconnectedness. The complexities surrounding the Houthi rebels in Yemen, the Syrian strife, and the Israel-Palestine conflict necessitate a united and comprehensive approach. As we address these challenges, China emphasizes the importance of equitable collaboration between the global North and the global South. The Middle East is at a crossroads, demanding strategic solutions that go beyond regional boundaries. The recent escalation between Israel and Palestine serves as a poignant reminder of the urgency for swift and inclusive negotiations. China advocates for a diplomatic framework that considers the historical nuances of the region, respecting the rights and aspirations of all parties involved. We underscore the significance of timely interventions to prevent further destabilization and foster a climate where dialogue prevails over conflict. China, with its rich diplomatic history, stands as a proponent of peaceful coexistence. As a delegate on Middle Eastern conflicts, let us commit to building bridges and promoting understanding among nations. China is ready to contribute constructively to the diplomatic initiatives that emerge from this summit, recognizing that working together is essential in shaping a future where reconciliation and peace take precedence. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can we finally have the delegate of Saudi Arabia?
Ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you to address a matter of utmost significance, the impact of Middle Eastern conflicts on the world and the implications set in motion by conflicts in the region. The Israel-Palestine conflict is a complex and deeply rooted issue with historical, cultural, and political dimensions. Saudi Arabia, with a commitment to regional stability and global peace, emphasizes the urgency to finding a just and lasting solution to the conflict. The Arab Islamic Summit held in Riyadh brought together dozens of Arab leaders who called for an immediate end to Israel's military operations in Gaza. The Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman has reiterated calls for a two-state solution as spelled out in 2002 Saudi-led Arab Peace Initiative. Saudi Arabia has taken concrete steps to express solidarity with the Palestinians, including by suspending its normalization talks with Israel. We firmly believe in the power of diplomatic dialogue. Dialogue negotiations between Israel and Palestine, facilitated by the international community, are crucial to achieving a comprehensive and just settlement that respects the rights and aspirations of both parties. The conflict in Syria has caused immense suffering and has implications for global politics. Saudi Arabia appeals to the international community to redouble efforts in providing humanitarian aid to alleviate the suffering of the Syrian people. Saudi Arabia supports diplomatic initiatives that prioritize dialogue, inclusivity, and respect for Syria's sovereignty to pave the way for a stable and inclusive government. The conflict in Yemen is a pressing concern with ripple effects on global politics. Saudi Arabia expresses its support for the newly established roadmap aimed at bolstering the peace process in Yemen, and the kingdom continues to support Yemen and emphasizes the need to encourage Yemeni parties to engage in dialogue to reach a comprehensive and lasting political solution under UN supervision. In conclusion, the impact of Middle Eastern conflict, particularly the Israel-Palestine conflict, on the world is profound. It has brought about significant implications in terms of regional stability, human suffering, economic development, and global politics. It is imperative that the international community to work collectively towards a peaceful resolution, promoting coexistence, tolerance, and justice for all parties involved. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Delegate of Saudi Arabia. Now that we have concluded the discussion on the principal issues, we now move to the next session. The floor is open to put forth your subjective views to ascertain any kind of incertitude that you feel has not been addressed regarding the questions at hand. May the Council see a vote as to how many wish to communicate their views. Thank you so much. The delegation of India.
Greetings, esteemed Assembly members. The delegation of India would first like to express their appreciation for each of your countries' continued support for humanitarian causes. However, after careful consideration of the arguments made at this forum, the Republic of India would like to humbly raise a concern, it being that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, being a supporter and also a neighbor to Palestine, sharing a maritime boundary with it, is still reluctant to provide refuge to affected Palestinians, and request the delegation's insights into the consideration guiding Saudi Arabia's policy in this regard.
Thank you so much. The delegation of USA.
The delegate of Russia had mentioned in their speech that they are all out for peace in terms of the Russia and Ukraine war. But their actions seem to mean the exact opposite. For over a year and a half, Russia has shredded the major tenets of the United Nations Charter, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, international humanitarian law, and flouted one Security Council resolution after another. The United States would want to know Russia's stance on adhering to international agreements and norms.
Thank you so much. The delegation of the United Kingdom.
The United Kingdom respectfully seeks insight from the delegate of Turkey regarding the success of the diplomatic efforts taken in regards to the Russia-Ukraine conflicts. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The delegation of Australia.
Australia's concern stands towards the delegate of Russia. Australia advocates staunch support for Ukraine in peace with the international order, imposing coordinated sanctions and measures to inflict a cost to those who bear responsibility, and providing humanitarian assistance in aid for those in greatest need. With the standing Australia-Russia nuclear cooperation agreement, we are concerned with the use of our dichotomous involvement with Russia in threat to Ukraine and the rather extraordinary nuclear missiles that were produced from the uranium supply prior to the ban, in hope to harness any dire impacts of war on Ukraine.
Thank you so much. The delegation of Japan.
Japan would like to point out that China's approach to war in Gaza is controversial and ambiguous to many observers. Beijing has criticized Israel's blanket bombardment of civilians and condemned violations, while avoiding condemning Hamas atrocities against civilians. China's solution is designed to contain the US and is seen as a peace-seeking, neutral great power.
Thank you so much. The delegate of Mexico.
The following statement is in critique of the US, which is being involved in the war by providing aid to Ukraine, resulting in the sustenance of the war, instead of providing adequate resources to Mexico and the other Latin American countries for their economic growth and development, which has been in the ask for quite a while now.
Thank you so much. Responses to the same are earnestly encouraged. Which delegations would like to communicate their views? Thank you so much. The delegate of Saudi Arabia, you can commence.
With sincere esteem, in response to the concerns raised by the delegate of India, Saudi Arabia would like to respectfully answer that Saudi Arabia does not share a direct border with Palestine. The countries that share a land border with Palestine are Israel and Jordan. While the water bodies may geographically connect Saudi Arabia and Palestine, the acceptance and resettlement of refugees involve multifaceted considerations, including geopolitical factors, capacity constraints, and the need for a comprehensive solution to the border conflict. Additionally, capacity constraints must be taken into account. Saudi Arabia, like any other country, has its own economic, social, and infrastructural limitations. Balancing the needs of a growing population and providing support to refugees can pose significant challenges for any nation, including Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia has been involved in supporting Palestinian causes economically and politically. The kingdom has contributed funds to aid Palestinian refugees and has been actively engaged in promoting diplomatic initiatives to advance peace in the region. In 2022, Saudi Arabia contributed $27 million to the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian refugees in the Near East. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The delegate of Russia, you can please respond.
Greeting delegates. To start with, I would like to answer the question posed by the delegate of America. Esteemed delegates, the international order was based following the Second World War. It became the Charter of the United Nations. Largely thanks to the United Nations, a new world war was awaited. Unfortunately, after the Cold War, the collective West, led by the US, single-handedly determined it would determine all humankind. Today, the West turns to norms and principles on a case-by-case basis, exclusively based on their geopolitical needs. Hence, it does not mean Russia always violating the UN Charter. If you keep on changing the UN Charter as per your wish, then sorry, it's not Russia's responsibility. And secondly, to answer the question of the delegate of Australia, Firstly, thank you for the question, Delegate of Australia. The Australian government implemented a ban on the exports of all the machinery related to Russia and area around Russia control. Before the ban, whatever supplies that were provided to Russia for the nuclear power project, that is not in terms of any connection with Australia. After the products are provided, that is only the relation with Australia. So hence, you will not be participating in the war. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The delegation of the Republic of Turkey, if you can please respond.
Greetings, respected delegates of the G20. As opposed to the claims put forth by delegation of the United Kingdom, the delegate of Republic of Turkey would like to ensure the success of its endeavors in effectuating diplomatic resolutions. In July 2022, Turkey, the United Nations, Russia and Ukraine signed a landmark agreement in Istanbul to resume grain exports from 3 Ukraine Black Sea ports. I repeat, 3 Ukraine Black Sea ports which had been paused during the war. Days before its scheduled expiration, the landmark grain deal was extended for another 120 days, beginning on November 19th of 2022. In March 2023, Turkey took up the initiative with the United Nations and announced that they secured a second extension for at least another 60 days. In May 2023, the deal was once again extended for 60 days, expiring on 18th of July 2023. By mid-July 2023, more than 1,000 voyages had successfully left Ukraine ports, carrying nearly 33 million tons of grains and other food products to 45 developing countries. Many countries congratulated and appreciated our country, the Republic of Turkey, and the efforts of United Nations for the initiative we have taken. With this, Teşekkürler. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your response. The delegation of China.
In response to the concerns raised by the delegate of Japan, China would like to clear the stance. China's approach to the conflict in Gaza stems from a commitment to peace, peaceful resolution, and the well-being of civilians in the region. Beijing has consistently criticized any actions that result in harm to innocent lives, condemning Israel's blanket bombardment of civilians. China's position is rooted in a broader commitment to promoting peace and stability globally. While condemning violations and advocating for the protection of civilians, our focus is on encouraging dialogue and negotiations to bring about a lasting solution. China believes in addressing the root causes of conflicts and facilitating diplomatic avenues to achieve a just and enduring peace. It is essential to understand that our stance is not about taking sides, but rather advocating for a comprehensive and equitable resolution. We remain committed to working with the international community to contribute to a peaceful and stable Middle East. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Delegate of China. The delegation of the United States of America.
Firstly, thank you, Delegate of Mexico, for the criticism. The United States of America would like to remind Mexico that we have been providing nearly $200 million in additional humanitarian assistance through international organizations and non-government partners in Mexico and Central America. It has also provided more than $594 million to this region since fiscal year 2018. Moreover, there has also been an agreement with the United States officials to keep border crossings between the two countries open after temporary closures during COVID-19. We have been taking initiatives from our side, but we prioritize Ukraine and will continue to do so because that is the very need of this hour. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now that we've reached the fag end of our session, let us break for a while before we move on to the resolution. Kindly maintain the decorum of the hall. Thank you so much, delegates of the world. We should together work towards resolutions which will inevitably usher peace and reconciliation. The delegate of India, you can please commence and we can go in sequential order.
Esteemed delegates, an eye for an eye only ends up making the whole world blind. Instead, let us strive for a world where understanding replaces vengeance, compassion triumphs over retaliation, and collective efforts pave the way for a future embraced by the enduring light of global peace. And in the pursuit of global peace, the delegation of India would like the forum to consider three fundamental measures. Firstly, embrace dialogue over discord, as communication fosters understanding. Secondly, invest in cross-cultural education to dismantle stereotypes and build bridges of empathy. Lastly, champion diplomacy by prioritizing negotiations and cooperation over conflict. Together, these measures can pave the way for a world where nations unite in the pursuit of lasting harmony. India firmly believes that collaboration and cooperation can make all nations present here architects of a harmonious global future. Thank you.
In resolution, the delegation of Mexico would like to state that it will abide by its principles and not by any kind of subjectively inclined judgment, following its tradition of dealing with conflicts in all aspects of objectivity and with the innate intent of peace. Thank you.
Respected delegates, now more than ever is the time for unity, cooperation, and a steadfast commitment to the principles that bind us as a global community. The United States of America reiterates the need to uphold the rule of law, respect sovereignty, and foster a world where conflicts are resolved through dialogue and diplomacy, not through aggression and force. For it is only the dead who have seen the end of a war. Thank you.
As Indonesia, we affirm our commitment to the global peace and stability. The impact of the conflicts in both Eastern Europe and the Middle East underscores the interconnectedness of the world. Through diplomatic dialogue and collaborative efforts within the G20, let us strive for a future where unity prevails, conflicts are peacefully resolved, and the well-being of all nations are safeguarded. Thank you.
My fellow delegates, as we navigate these challenges, the world is undergoing a period of turbulence and transformation. The recent expansion of the BRICS group, namely Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, has had 6 new countries join the group. The BRICS alliance aims to reduce tension among its Middle Eastern members and contribute to a more stable international environment. In conclusion, Brazil reiterates its commitment to collaboration, dialogue, and diplomacy as we collectively address the pressing issues facing our world. Let us work together, recognizing the interdependence of nations to build a future marked by peace, prosperity, and shared progress. Thank you.
As Korea, more than 500 South Korean peacekeepers serve in 6 peace operations worldwide to make it a point. Focusing on making new technologies, connecting and sharing the same technology throughout emerging and disruptive technologies throughout the country's participation in Science for Peace and Security program. To afford equal opportunities to every person and provide for the fullest development of individual capabilities in all fields, including political, economic, social, and cultural life, by further strengthening the basic free and democratic order, conduct to private initiative and public harmony, and resolve that countries should share technology primarily and make it globally common, one step towards peace and friendship. Kamsa Hamida, thank you.
Esteemed delegates, the war has led to geopolitical shifts that demand careful consideration, and it is crucial for the global community to engage in diplomatic dialogue to find a peaceful and sustainable resolution. In terms of plausible resolutions, Saudi Arabia supports the following measures. As Saudi Arabia, we advocate for a diplomatic approach that respects the sovereignty of nations and seek to find common ground through dialogue and negotiations. Saudi Arabia calls for a United Nations-led peacekeeping mission to monitor and ensure compliance with any agreed upon ceasefire. Let us stand together, united in our commitment to a world free from the ravages of war. Thank you.
Respected delegates, in pursuit of a world defined by harmony and equity, Argentina asserts 4 pivotal resolutions. Firstly, let us prioritize inclusive dialogue over division, fostering understanding rather than erecting barriers. Secondly, our commitment stands unwavering in upholding international law and advocating for diplomacy as a cornerstone of conflict resolution. Thirdly, we champion the empowerment of all human rights, rejecting selective favoritism in favor of universal inclusivity. Lastly, our focus must shift from militarization towards disarmament and peace building. Through these resolutions, let's forge a world where peace isn't an elusive dream but an enduring reality, illuminating our global landscape with hope and unity. Thank you.
While agreeing to all the resolutions put forth by other countries, Japan would like to recognize the importance of youth in peace building. We call for increased investment in youth-led initiatives and inclusion of young people in decision-making processes. We acknowledge the unique perspective and innovative approaches that young people bring to the peace-building efforts and urge governments and international organizations to provide them with necessary resources and support. We also recognize the need to address root causes of conflict, including inequality, discrimination, and lack of access to education and economic opportunities. By empowering young people and addressing these underlying issues, we can build a more of peaceful and just world for all. Let's not take this planet for granted. Japan does not take this opportunity for granted. Thank you.
Esteemed delegates, the Russian Federation would firstly like to address the Russia-Ukraine war resolutions. Russia wants a guarantee that Ukraine can never join NATO. Ukraine as an extension of what we call historical Russia, a part of the Russian Empire and Soviet Union, and within Moscow's sphere of influence today. Russia wants NATO arms out of Eastern Europe. West took advantage of Russia's weakness in expanding the alliance over multiple Russian objections. Thirdly, Russia wants a ban on NATO missiles within striking distance. Russia has nervously watched as NATO has demonstrated it can defend its involvement in Ukraine, providing weapons and training without the former Soviet Republic becoming a member. For us, this is a serious challenge, a challenge to our security. Secondly, to address the Israel-Palestine war resolutions, I would like to emphasize that Russia is ready to coordinate anyone to ensure peace. We proceed from the belief that there is no alternative to resolving the Israel-Palestine conflict through negotiations. The goal should be the implementation of UN two-state formula, which is the creation of an independent Palestine state with the capital of East Jerusalem, coexisting in peace and security with Israel. Thank you.
The delegation of France would like to mention that over the years, France has championed numerous initiatives aimed at fostering dialogue and understanding. Our involvement in stabilizing regions like the Sahel and our continued support for the United Nations peacekeeping missions stands their statement to our delegation. Looking ahead, France is eager to amplify its efforts. We propose strengthening the G20's role in mediating regional conflicts by establishing a dedicated peace-building committee, investing in education and cultural exchange programs to promote tolerance and mutual respect, intensifying our collective efforts to address the root causes of conflicts such as inequality and resource scarcity. Furthermore, our collaboration with G20 nations has been pivotal. Together, we've enhanced intelligence sharing, supported humanitarian efforts, and advocated for multilateral diplomacy. We believe that peace building is not a solitary endeavor. It requires collective action, shared responsibility, and unwavering commitment. France stands ready to collaborate with all G20 nations to build a more peaceful and prosperous world for future generations. Thank you.
Fellow delegates and esteemed guests, Australia calls for unity among the world leaders to contribute unanimously for the bereaved of Israel, Palestine, Ukraine, Syria, and Yemen. The continued lack of progress during peace negotiations has seen the humanitarian solution worsen, with consistent human rights violations from the conflicts. As for Australia, we continue to stand resolved for the civilians of all nations devastated from the repercussions of the war, aiding financial and military assistance. Thank you.
A country believes in the power of diplomacy, multilateral cooperation, and humanitarian aid as crucial instruments in resolving conflicts. We stand committed to supporting peaceful initiatives, dialogues, and negotiations to less tensions and foster stability in the world. Furthermore, Italy advocates for inclusive approaches that engage all stakeholders, ensuring that the voices and aspirations of all communities within the region are heard and respected. Forging a path towards sustainable peace and stability, let us all build bridges, not walls. Lascia sia la pace, let there be peace. Thank you.
As the representative of Canada at the G20 summit, we propose a resolution focused on fostering international cooperation through diplomacy, dialogue, and conflict resolution mechanisms. The pathway to building a harmonious existence of all countries and unions. Canada believes that it can be achieved by investing in diplomatic efforts, promoting cultural exchanges, and supporting international organizations. We aim to create a global environment that prioritizes peaceful resolutions over armed conflicts, ushering in an era of lasting peace. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Germany will always stand on the side of peace. It is important to realize that all the countries must stand and work together to bring peace and harmony among all the nations. After all, we're brothers and sisters. It is only right that the innocent people being affected by the wars should receive help and support during these hard times. We, the Germans, will make sure of it, and not only us, but all the other nations will stand together and help them to get back to their normal lives. Thank you.
As United Kingdom, our message is clear. United, we stand against global challenges. We pledge to shape the international landscape by working hand in hand with partners worldwide, even those with differing perspectives. Through resilience and collaboration, let us be architects of a secure world, transcending differences for the well-being of our citizens. The United Kingdom stands ready to collaborate for a future of peace and stability in Great Britain. Thank you.
In conclusion, as the delegate of China, I express profound gratitude for the thoughtful discussions during the summit. China reiterates its strong commitment to the pursuit of peace, stability, and justice in the Middle East. Our principled stand reflects a dedication to fostering diplomatic resolutions and promoting inclusive dialogue. China suggests the following potential resolutions. 1. Establishment of a multilateral diplomatic task force. 2. Support for humanitarian aid and reconstruction. 3. Promotion of inclusive dialogue platforms. 4. Enhanced international cooperation on counter-terrorism. 5. Encouragement of cultural and educational exchanges. Let us collectively recognize the shared responsibility we bear in shaping a world where disputes are settled through peaceful means. China extends its hand in continued collaboration with the international community, seeking common ground and understanding to pave the way for a future marked by cooperation, stability, and prosperity. Thank you for your commitment to this collective endeavor.
South Africa staunchly advocates for peaceful resolutions in both the Russia-Ukraine and Middle Eastern conflicts. We emphasize the interconnectedness of global stability and the need for adherence to international law. South Africa remains committed to fostering international cooperation, upholding principles of sovereignty, and addressing the root causes of conflicts for the collective well-being of the global community. Thank you.
Respected delegates, the Republic of Turkey would like to express its gratitude to all the representatives of the G20 summit. As we stand at the G20 summit, let us unite in the spirit of collaboration to address conflict zones. Turkey calls for increased international cooperation, strengthened peacekeeping efforts, and robust diplomatic initiatives. Our nation is ready to contribute to peace-building processes and work alongside the international community to provide humanitarian aid to those affected by conflicts. Turkey believes that sustainable peace can only be achieved by addressing the root causes of conflicts, promoting economic development, and respecting the diversity of every country, that defines our global community. Together, let us all turn the page towards a future where the echo of gunfire is replaced by the promise of dialogue, understanding, and a shared commitment to a peaceful world for generations to come. Teshkuler, thank you.
Thank you so much, delegates of the world. We shall now draft the resolution and strive towards ushering in an era of no war, with peace and reconciliation. To not end it on a solemn note, I shall add a pinch of poetic hope. As Longfellow put it, lives of all great men remind us we can make our lives sublime, and departing, leave behind us footprints on the sands of time. Footprints that perhaps another, sailing over life's solemn main, a forlorn and shipwrecked brother, seeing, shall take heart again. If something goes wrong, the most optimal way forward is always to rebuild. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much.